It was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I ain't say that.
Okay.
Had to take IVs. Remember the time that him and his mama kissed each other on the lips?
Yeah, I remember that video.
Do you remember that both of them was getting an IV at the same time?
Yeah, I did notice that, yep.
That's from the Diddy Freak Off party.
With Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp?
Yeah,
Flavor
that's
Camp.
what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No.
Everybody's been locked in on Diddy's case. But what no one saw coming was Usher stepping out with bombshells that might turn everything on its head. He's not just throwing light jabs or weak comments. Nah, insiders claim Usher showed up with recordings. That could expose Diddy for far more than anyone ever imagined, and check this out, the craziest part. Diddy allegedly treated Usher so badly, he wound up hospitalized after situations escalated way too far behind those closed doors now before diving. Into all these explosive details, let's get something crystal clear. Everything you're about to hear comes directly from reported leaks, testimony snippets, and intense online discussions. So if this shatters what you believe, don't blame me, I'm simply presenting what's already circulating. Word has it, Usher was silenced for years, muzzled by NDAs, payoffs, and heavy intimidation. But now he's reached his limit. Allegedly, he's prepared to reveal everything, and he's got the evidence to support it. We're talking recorded phone calls, hidden videos, and voice messages dating back to 2004. That's 2 decades of secrets. And now Usher's reportedly ready to unleash everything he's been hiding, as Diddy's trial intensifies and more stars get summoned. To testify, don't be surprised if Usher exposes it all. Rumor has it, he didn't just observe what happened, he experienced it firsthand long before Cassie or anyone else. Usher was deep in the situation, and sources say this isn't about fame or revenge, it's about survival. Usher allegedly got drawn into the chaos as a teenager, moving into Diddy's place when he was only 14. That's when he witnessed everything: wild gatherings, strange setups with cameras everywhere, and those so-called auditions. Behind locked doors, he wasn't just watching. He was victimized. And now he might be the key witness that could bring everything tumbling down. Let's look back. Usher was barely 13 or 14, newly signed to LaFace Records by L.A. Reid. He had the skills, the appearance, the potential, but instead of protecting him, Reid made a shocking decision. He sent Usher to live with Sean Puffy Combs, who was already notorious for being the wildest party host in the business. The industry whispers suggest Reid knowingly placed a young, impressionable talent directly into an environment that prioritized adult pleasures over professional development. Multiple sources confirm this arrangement was unprecedented even by the industry's loose standards of the 90s music scene, raising serious questions about the duty of care owed to young artists.
With Usher.
Yes.
Talk about it.
Yeah, so I met Usher, Usher. I met him when he was 14, and my book actually opens with that because it was one of the highlights in my career. At 14 years old, this young guy comes walking into my office, and he starts singing. And I stop him early and say, wait a minute, hold up, this is too good. I need to go get some girls. So I bring all the girls from the office in, and Usher drops down on one knee and starts singing it to the prettiest girl in the room and starts seducing her with his eyes. He's 14.
Yeah.
And he has no fear, no anxiety, no nervousness, and he goes in and he nails it. And I'm like, okay, thank you, and welcome to LaFace Records.
Even L.A. Reid later confessed he wasn't certain if sending Usher to live with Diddy was brave or completely reckless. But what actually transpired in that apartment, that's where things become extremely dark. One source claims Usher ended up hospitalized. After something happened in that location, yeah, seriously, people connected to the Harlem scene back then say Diddy allegedly crossed a major boundary. Something so terrible it put Usher in the emergency room initially when the rumors started spreading. Nobody was mentioning names, but the talk was intense. People were saying someone was bleeding severely. And this isn't gossip fluff. That's what folks were saying before they even knew the person everyone was whispering about was Usher. Industry veterans who were in New York during that period have recently come forward describing a culture of silence that protected powerful figures while leaving young talents vulnerable to exploitation. Several former assistants reportedly witnessed Usher's distress firsthand, but were contractually prevented from speaking out, creating a perfect environment for alleged misconduct to continue unchecked for decades.
Right? I know, and people know, that was around in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital. Now, I let Usher explain that to y'all. I let Usher tell that story. But how dare you say a man that groomed you, you gonna give him a pass? Bro, you know I know. Let me reframe you on something. Remember Usher?
At that time, Usher didn't fully understand what he was being subjected to. In an interview, he once mentioned being sent to Puffy's so-called flavor camp when he was just 13. And listen to this, he stayed with him for a complete year, an entire year. In that chaotic environment, barely a teenager surrounded by things no child should have ever witnessed. Former staff members from that period described the apartment as a revolving door of high-profile guests at all hours, with constant parties featuring substances and activities completely inappropriate for a child. Multiple sources confirm security. Personnel were instructed to restrict Usher's movements and communications, effectively isolating him from potential support systems, while creating total dependence on Diddy's approval and guidance during these formative years.
New York City. And I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's
camp.
what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's.
But that was just the beginning. Later, when Usher was questioned about what life was actually like inside Diddy's residence. He didn't reveal everything, but he definitely didn't completely hold back. Either he mentioned the place was filled with women and the atmosphere absolutely wild. He didn't break down every single detail, but he dropped sufficient hints to signal something wasn't right. Usher even admitted that during that period, he didn't really comprehend what he was experiencing. But looking back, it was completely inappropriate. Former house staff have recently corroborated these accounts, describing a setting where boundaries between professional mentorship and personal exploitation were deliberately blurred. Several sources confirm young artists were regularly subjected to psychological manipulation techniques designed to normalize inappropriate behavior while establishing unhealthy power dynamics that would persist throughout their careers and personal relationships.
Hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
And Diddy Man, he was trying to act smooth. There's a video still circulating online from a live stream where he seriously messed up. He began talking about how he and Usher used to wake up together back then suddenly he caught himself mid-sentence. And the atmosphere turned extremely uncomfortable. He rushed to fix it, saying Usher was around 10 years old and that they used to fight over Frosted Flakes or something silly like that. But by that point, the damage was done. You could notice the people around him were visibly shocked expressions, frozen like they couldn't believe what just came from his mouth. Body language experts who've analyzed this footage point out Diddy's shifting eye movements, nervous gestures, and rapid speech pattern changes as classic indicators of deception. Particularly telling was how other industry veterans present during this awkward moment, exchanged knowing glances, suggesting this slip confirmed rumors they'd heard but never publicly acknowledged about the nature of Diddy's mentorship style with young talents.
Fresh off the garden stage. That's my brother right here from day one. We used to wake up and, pause, but like, just out. Back in the days when he was like 10 and I was a little bit older, his older brother, we used to fight over the Frosted Flakes. You know what I'm saying? Before pause was invented. You know what I'm saying? But it's my brother for real. We used to actually wrestle off of the Frosted Flakes because he used to always get up early.
But it becomes even darker. One report states Usher was seated at a dinner table with Diddy, Neo, Jimmy Iovine, and Cassie. Yes, that lineup, and right there before all of them. Diddy allegedly struck Cassie in the stomach. Nobody uttered a word. Not Neo. Not Jimmy, not even Usher. People responding to that report quickly highlighted how disturbing that silence was, especially since Usher has a daughter himself, seeing him freeze that way. Facing something so violent reveals much about how deep the control extended. These artists weren't just quiet. They were psychologically trapped, perhaps they still are. But now it appears Usher's finally escaping that haze. Sources indicate these weren't just isolated incidents. This was part of the extended manipulation that Usher had to accept just to survive the industry, and eventually, that normalization transformed into silence. And that silence followed him throughout his entire career with all that trauma buried inside. Now here's where it takes an even more disturbing turn. Usher didn't just endure that chaos. He unintentionally helped perpetuate the cycle after spending his early years under Diddy's influence. Usher ended up introducing Justin Bieber into that very same world Justin was, only 13 at the time, just like Usher had been. And according to an interview, L.A. Reid once directly stated that Usher brought Bieber to him as a gift. That's shocking. The same industry pipeline that nearly destroyed Usher was now drawing in another kid then. Psychological trauma specialists have identified this pattern as common among abuse survivors, who sometimes unconsciously recreate familiar dynamics, having internalized toxic relationship models during their formative years. Former associates confirm witnessing numerous instances where Usher appeared visibly uncomfortable around Diddy, yet continued maintaining professional ties, suggesting complex emotional bonds that transcended simple business relationships.
To you two.
Yeah, it's ironic and makes me really, it's heartwarming that 14-year-old Justin Bieber walks into my office as a gift from Usher, who called a few minutes before and said, "Hey, I'm coming to your office at 3 o'clock. I have a very special gift for you." And he shows up with Justin Bieber, and Justin sits down and plays piano. Then he picks up his guitar and plays. And I'm like, oh my God, right? Are you serious? And that day, we made a deal to sign Justin Bieber also.
Reid said Justin was beautiful. And listen to this, Diddy allegedly received temporary guardianship over him for 48 hours. Legal experts have recently questioned how such an arrangement could possibly have been approved given the complete lack of familial relationship or formal mentorship structure. Several industry executives familiar with the situation describe this transfer of authority as unprecedented and deeply concerning, especially considering Justin's parents were led to believe this temporary arrangement would advance their son's career while potentially exposing him to situations no responsible guardian would permit.
Having the times of their lives, like you know, where we hanging out and what we doing, we can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. You know, I have been given custody of him. You know, he signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So yeah, and we gonna go full crazy.
Going crazy.
Crazy.
I'm taking this out tonight.
What you wanna do? What you wanna do over the next 48 hours?
48 hours. Let's go. Let's just go get some girls. Let's go and get some girls.
Man after my heart. That's what I'm talking about, kid.
But it didn't end there. Justin ended up spending unsupervised time with Diddy, even partying with him when he was just 15. And yes, there are videos available, actual footage, where Diddy's asking Justin strange, uncomfortable questions, and even warning him not to discuss what happened during their time together. It's truly disturbing. Child development specialists who've reviewed these interactions point out the classic grooming patterns evident in Diddy's communication style, including establishing secret-keeping behaviors, normalizing adult activities for minors, and creating an atmosphere where questioning authority figures is discouraged. Former security personnel have recently come forward describing their discomfort at being instructed not to intervene, regardless of what transpired during these private encounters.
Selling out arenas and everything, starting to act different, huh? You ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, I mean, you try to get in contact with me, you know, through all my, partners and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But you never really got my number, so.
Right. Okay.
My number?
Yeah.
Tell you my number.
Yeah.
It's 55.
And it becomes even more troubling. In one clip, Diddy's caught asking if Justin Bieber was wearing a wire, like he suspected something questionable might eventually be revealed. As for Usher, he's not avoiding responsibility anymore. People close to the situation are challenging him, saying he contributed to delivering Bieber into the same chaos he barely survived himself. One commenter even stated Usher was one of Diddy's first and argued that by putting Justin in that position, Usher's no better than Diddy as more footage and old stories resurface. People are beginning to connect the dots. And it's not just about Usher or Bieber anymore. Freddie P has spoken out too, claiming Diddy allegedly manipulated his own son, keeping him close, isolating him from his biological father, and showering him with gifts. The message Diddy ensured he raised the very ones who could have exposed him, turning them into faithful protectors by design. It's as if he constructed an entire system to keep his secrets protected. Multiple sources with direct knowledge confirm this ecosystem of silence was maintained through a sophisticated network of financial incentives, career opportunities, and implicit threats, creating powerful motivation for everyone involved to preserve the status quo regardless of personal misgivings or ethical concerns about what they witnessed. And here's the most shocking part. Even Diddy's relationship with his own mother has people questioning him. There's a video circulating of him kissing his 83-year-old mom on the lips, calling her Mom Dukes, saying she's single and ready to mingle, and even making jokes about taking her to strip clubs. Yeah, you heard correctly. And she was even observed wearing white nail polish. And if you've been following this entire case, you already understand what that small detail might be suggesting. Family dynamics experts note how unusual these interactions appear compared to typical mother-son relationships, particularly the sexualized language and boundary violations that suggest deeply rooted patterns of inappropriate conduct normalized across multiple generations. Several former household staff members have described witnessing uncomfortable interactions that left them questioning whether professional intervention might have been warranted years before any public scrutiny emerged. And this narrative continues. Getting Deeper Gene Deal, a former bodyguard and well-known insider in the industry, revealed a shocking claim that Diddy's own mother operated a so-called modeling agency that was actually a front for escort services. According to him, she didn't. Just influenced Diddy's mindset. She was allegedly present at those infamous freak-off parties with him. That's extremely disturbing. One user even commented, "She definitely always been a weirdo to me too. She probably tampered with him early on." And when you start connecting everything Usher, Bieber, Cassie Diddy's son, and now his mother, it stops appearing random. It's beginning to look like a comprehensive pattern, a twisted setup that's been operating deeply for years with each element, connecting to the next in ways people are only now starting to recognize. Criminal psychology specialists reviewing these allegations point to classic signs of intergenerational trauma and normalized deviance, where inappropriate behaviors become embedded within family systems and subsequently influence business relationships. Multiple sources confirm these parties featured elaborate security protocols to prevent documentation, with phones confiscated and NDAs required before entry, suggesting awareness that these activities wouldn't withstand public scrutiny still.
Diddy has said this. He said, when I give a party, I have to have an ambulance outside of the house. Paramedics ready. That people have to take IVs. Remember the time that him and his mama kissed each other on the lips?
Yeah, I remember that video.
Do you remember that both of them was getting an IV at the same time?
Yeah, I did notice that, yep.
That's from the Diddy freak off party. And I'm gonna say allegedly.
So let me ask you this. You knowing her at one point, you knowing her personally, is she the kind of person that, will be a part of a freak off or no?
I think that she liked to party and she...
That didn't prevent people from expressing their opinions. One user said, "I think Usher started out as a victim, but he definitely became an enabler. At the very least, Justin Bieber is definitely a victim. You can tell by how he moves as an adult. I just hope the full truth comes out and every person responsible gets held accountable." And honestly, they might be correct. These allegations keep aligning like pieces of a puzzle. And now the real question is it too late for Usher to make amends? Or is this just the beginning of a reckoning one Diddy never anticipated would arrive? What's your perspective on this revelation? Share your thoughts in the comments. We're monitoring every development as this whole situation unfolds. And if you're here for the honest discussion, no filters, no sugarcoating, hit that like button, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and stay tuned for the next video we've got planned. You don't want to miss what's coming next. See you soon. Trauma specialists emphasize the importance of understanding how victims often become unwitting participants in perpetuating cycles of abuse, noting that genuine accountability requires acknowledging this complex dynamic, rather than simplistic victim-villain narratives. Legal experts watching this case develop suggest we may be witnessing just the beginning of a much larger industry reckoning that could ultimately transform how young artists are protected and mentored in the entertainment business for generations to come.